Hey everyone, and welcome. So glad you could join me. We've got a real mystery to solve today. Think about it. When you're online reading an article or a blog post, how do you really know if it was written by a person or a robot? And this isn't just some fun little thought experiment, right? This question is a really big deal. It's popping up everywhere, from your homework assignments to actual news articles. So if we're going to crack this case, we need to get to know the tools, the AI detectives that are designed to sniff out the difference. Okay, so here's our official detective briefing for today. The quick version, the TLDR, is this. AI detectors are basically robot detectives looking for patterns. But, and this is a big but, they're not always right. We're going to treat this whole thing like a Scooby-Doo mystery, okay? We've got a case, we'll look for clues, and there will be a big reveal at the end. And along the way, we're going to pick up a few new vocab words for our detective toolkit. All right, first things first, let's set the scene for our mystery. AI-written stuff is popping up everywhere now. You see it in blogs, you see it in ads, you even see it in school assignments. So the huge question on everyone's mind is, how can you tell who or what is actually doing the writing? And believe me, this is a real puzzle for teachers, for editors, for pretty much everybody. So it's time to open up our detectives toolkit. And the number one gadget we've got in here is the AI detector. Now, this is a special kind of program, and its whole job is to hunt for those little signs, those telltale clues that a robot was here. But how does it actually do that? Okay, this is super important to get right from the start. An AI detector is not the same thing as a plagiarism checker. They're totally different tools. See, a plagiarism checker just asks one question. Was this copied from somewhere else online? Simple. But the AI detector, it's asking something way different. It's asking, does this sound like a robot wrote it? It's all about the style of the writing, not whether the words were copied. You think you got it? Let's do a super quick pop quiz. True or false? Number one, an AI detector checks if you copied and pasted from Wikipedia. What do you think? That's going to be false. That's a job for a plagiarism checker. Okay, number two, a plagiarism checker would catch a brand new essay that an AI just wrote. Also false, because the AI just made it up. It didn't copy it from anywhere. All right, last one. An AI detector looks at the style of the writing, not if it's copied. And that one is absolutely true. Awesome job. So, if it's all about style, how do these detectors actually spot a robot? Well, they're trained to hunt for two main clues. You can think of them like digital fingerprints. You know, the little traces the robot leaves behind at the scene of the crime. The writing. Okay, here's our first big clue and our first new vocab word. The word is perplexity. Now, that sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just a fancy way of measuring how surprising or unpredictable the words are. See, humans, we're kind of all over the place. We use weird words. But AI often has low perplexity. It tends to pick the most obvious, most common, most predictable word every single time. It's kind of like watching a really boring movie where you know exactly what the next line of dialogue is going to be. And for an AI detector, that predictability is a huge flashing clue. All right, on to our second clue. And our next vocab word is burstiness. This one is all about the rhythm of the writing. When people write, there's a natural flow, right? We use some long, complex sentences, and then we throw in some short, punchy ones. It has a beat. But AI writing, it often has really low burstiness. Almost all the sentences are the same length. It feels flat, like a song that just plays the same note over and over and over again. Bump, bump, bump. Pretty robotic, right? But just like in any good detective story, there is a plot twist. Our AI detective, well, it's not perfect. Sometimes the trail goes cold and it can get things really wrong.
There are basically two big ways the detector can mess up. The first one is called a false positive. That's our last vocab word for today. This is when the detector yells robot at something a human actually wrote. It gets fooled, maybe because the human's writing style is just a little different or quirky. And then there's the other mistake, a false negative. That's when the AI written text is so good that it completely fools the detector and the robot gets away with it.
Let's look at an example. Take this sentence. My brain operates on a chaotic wavelength of pure genius and half-eaten sandwiches. Okay, a human definitely wrote that. You can just tell, right? It's creative, it's funny, it's a little weird. It has so much personality. You can practically see the person typing it. But here's the twist. Because that sentence is so unusual and unpredictable, it has high perplexity, An AI detector might actually get confused. It could think, this is a robot trying way too hard to sound creative, and it might flag it as AI written. And that's a perfect example of a false positive. The detector accuses an innocent human. Okay, so let's get to the final verdict in our case. We've gathered the clues, we've looked at the digital fingerprints. What's the big takeaway here? The most important thing to remember is that the AI detector is just one tool. It's a useful gadget in our detective kit for sure, but it is not the final judge and jury. And here's why. This is so critical. An AI detector doesn't just spit out a yes or no answer. It doesn't say human or robot. What it actually gives you is a probability score, a percentage. So it's not saying this is definitely AI. It's saying, well, there's like a 70% chance this could be AI. You see the difference? It's a clue, not a confession. And that right there is exactly why we still need human detectives in the mix. A person, like a teacher or an editor, can spot clues that the machine just totally misses. They can feel when a piece of writing has no soul, you know? It might have perfect spelling and grammar, but there's just no personality, no unique voice, none of those personal stories or opinions that make writing feel real. So, the most crucial point here is that the detector's score is just one piece of the puzzle. It's just one piece of evidence in the entire case. A really interesting piece, for sure, but it never, ever tells the whole story by itself. At the end of the day, the final decision has to be made by a person. Someone has to look at all the clues, the computer's score, sure, but also the actual writing itself, and use their own brain to make the call. The human detective is still the one in charge, always. And that leaves us with one last, kind of tricky question to chew on. What happens if a robot gets so good that it can write a flawless A+ essay? Should it still get an F just because a robot wrote it? It's a tough one, right? What do you think? Thanks so much for putting on your detective hats and joining me for this investigation.